What's going on, guys? How was your Monday? How did your Monday go? Ever since I made my video yesterday, I've been trying to keep my mind off of football because there's no way to think about football right now without just getting bummed out because, um, yeah, this was bad. This was one of the worst losses of the Pete Carroll, Russell Wilson era. It's at least in the top five, I would say, just in terms of damage it's done to a season. And we, 2 months from now, really are going to be looking back at this one and just thinking what could have been. I fully believe that. So the game wrapped up maybe 28 hours ago, so we've all had a day to think about it. I'm in a better place today. I focused on my work. You go into the office this morning, and if we had won that game, people would have been talking about the Seahawks left and right. I know how my office is. Today, not a word, nothing to say, man. Nothing but crushing disappointment. And I want to make a more coherent video than the one I made yesterday. I was all over the place yesterday. I was contradicting myself. I'm sorry if you guys can hear my dog up there. She's old and she does stuff like that when she feels like it, and there's not much anybody can do about it. Um, there are a lot of things to be, upset about when it comes to this game, but the bottom line, guys, the offense can't do this to us. The team, the fans, the ownership, whoever you want to say us is, offense cannot do this for us. Defense went out there with no Earl Thomas, no Sheldon Richardson. They had a great game. They scored points. They got a turnover. They got a lot of pressure on the quarterback. They kept Washington to two good drives in the first 58 minutes of the game. And the offense just can't do that to us. A game where they look like they don't practice together, a game where it looks like they don't understand the basic fundamental rules of NFL football. It's, yeah. I want to make a more coherent video this time. Yesterday I was all over the place. I was contradicting myself. Today we're going to try to not do that. We're going to try to really talk about what the problem is, because we're at the halfway point of the season now, and we've got some games coming up that are going to define whether or not we can do anything with this year. And first of all, when you talk about why yesterday's loss was so bad, one thing that needs to be made abundantly clear: this team is all in right now. This team made a big trade for Sheldon Richardson before the season started. They made a big trade to get a left tackle at the trade deadline. They gave up second-round picks, a third-round pick. Their drafts are thin for the next 2 years. And our salary cap is going to be a mess. Either next year or the year after, we're going to be trying to make all this shit work. We're going to have to make some real sacrifices to get it together. Richard Sherman might be a casualty. Michael Bennett could be a casualty. We're not going to like the way things go. Tyler Lockett could find himself on another team in a few years easily. This is all about this year. So to watch this team go all in officially by making that Jaron Brown trade, trading for a good left tackle, and then seeing them take a game at home for granted and finding a way to blow it. This was bad. There have been some losses in the Pete Carroll era that have been worse, but not that many. And if this loss ends up keeping us from winning the division, winning home field advantage, being forced to play the NFC Championship game in Philadelphia, whatever, that's a disaster. And look, defense let us down at the end. I understand. I want the defense to force more than one turnover. We should have gotten more than one turnover out of the defense for sure. We should have gotten more pressure on Kirk Cousins. We certainly shouldn't have given up that last 70-yard touchdown drive in 30 seconds. But this is about the offense putting up 0 points in the first 50 minutes of the game. I know the kicker. I understand. Blair Walsh, we're going to have to stick with him for one more week and then see where we stand with that. That makes me unhappy too. Don't get it twisted. But, guys, I'm going to go ahead and say something kind of bold here. And I'm not saying this because I'm advocating for change with the personnel that we have. I want a change with the mentality. We've got 8 games left in this season. You win out, you go 13-3. If we win out, we're going to win the division. We're going to get a first-round bye. Everything can be fine, but this team that we saw over the first 8 games cannot win out. And Pete Carroll is part of the problem right now. And I don't say that because I think Pete Carroll needs to get fired right now, and I want Darrell Bevell to be the head coach of the team. I'm not stupid. Pete Carroll's part of the problem right now. For one, you just have all these penalties, which he said in his press conference. The number of penalties we're getting this year is unacceptable. We are on pace to break the all-time record. We are on pace for 164 penalties over 16 regular season games, which would be a record. I can deal with a team that leads the league in penalties. I cannot deal with a team that breaks the all-time penalty record. I understand that the way we play football invites penalties, but you're false starting at home. You're picking up dumb holding calls away from the play. You're picking up a flag on every other special teams punt return. It's that part of it. That's one thing, but it's time for Pete Carroll to understand that it's 2017. The NFL doesn't work the way it worked in the 90s, and it is adapt or die time. Pete Carroll, he loves his defense. He loves having a defense that just chokes the life out of their opponents, that gets turnovers, that gets pressure on the quarterback, and an offense that just doesn't screw it up. That's what Pete Carroll wants. That's what Pete Carroll had a few years ago here when we had a great running game and we had a quarterback who just managed the game, and we had a pretty good offensive line, at least a highly paid offensive line. I'm sorry, guys. There's no stopping them once they start barking. And like I said, my dog is so old, she should have fun whenever she can. And we had one of the most dominant defenses in NFL history. It doesn't work anymore, guys. Right now, we have a coach that wants to run the ball, stop the run, force some turnovers, not turn the ball over ourselves, and then win games 17-13. And it doesn't work anymore. And I need to see an understanding of where the NFL is right now, and I need to see an understanding of the players we have on this team. Bottom line, this team has Thomas Rawls, Eddie Lacy, and J.D. McKissick as its three-headed running back combo. Those 3 guys, if we cut them right now, they would be lucky to find a job in the NFL. That's the reality we have right now. We caught a bad break with Chris Carson breaking his leg. I understand. We caught a bad break with Thomas Rawls not being the guy he showed he could be 2 years ago. Caught a bad break with Eddie Lacy coming in and being everything we were afraid he was going to be. But the other side of that is we have a top 5 quarterback. I bitch about him a lot too. Russell Wilson, I'll bitch about him. I bitched about him yesterday because he played a bad game. Top 5, top 6 quarterback in the league. We got a top 5 wide receiver in Doug Baldwin. We got a wide receiver in his contract year making big plays, trying to earn that money, Paul Richardson. We got Jimmy Graham not having a very good season, but still a big-time, big-play tight end. That is what we have right now. So when you have all those things, and you have a head coach who still believes that running yards are more valuable than passing yards, and that defense is more valuable than offense, and that controlling the game on offense is more important than dominating the game on offense, it's a problem. We have no excuse, and I know the players didn't exactly play great on Sunday. This is on them too. Russell Wilson particularly is a lot better than he played on Sunday against Washington. But I need to see an understanding that with the team that we have, Wilson needs to go out there sometimes and sling the ball 50 times a game, because the assumptions that Pete Carroll has always had about football, they get proven wrong constantly. The last 2.5 years, we've seen this defense, which has been one of the best defenses in the league, which has been the defense that Pete Carroll has built and is so proud of. We've seen them blow leads. We've seen them give up last-minute scoring drives to lose games. We've seen them fail to close out a team when given a small lead by letting them march down in the, late in the third even. We've seen games where the Seahawks had to win via shootout, where they passed the ball 50, 60 times, where everything runs through Russell Wilson, and we've had to get the win that way. I mean, this 2-week sample is perfect. Yesterday, the defense played a really good game, and we lost because the offense gave them the lead with 1.5 minutes left, and it wasn't enough. When an offense in the NFL absolutely has to move the ball at the end of a game, it's really hard to stop them. When you give them 4 downs and you give them the ability to spread the field and an understanding of exactly what they need to do to move the ball down the field, where you take away the, balance of the run and the pass, it's hard to stop any NFL offense. So what you need to do is make sure you're up by enough at the end of the game to where it doesn't matter. And then 2 weeks, and then, the week before, the defense shits their pants. I mean, we forced turnovers, we got sacks, but we gave up 38 points? Gave up all the points. And we still won because the offense fired it up, couldn't run the ball at all. We ran everything through Russell Wilson, and Russell Wilson, pretty much by himself with the receivers, got him a W. And we've seen more games like this in the last couple years, and the seat of power that Pete Carroll sat in for a few years there, where the defense just was so good, we could get away with so much crap from the offense. And it was kind of legitimate there for a little bit. Pete Carroll could just say, hey, offense, I don't care what you do for the whole game. Just give me a lead with a few minutes left in the game, and my defense will carry it out. I don't care if you don't score until the fourth quarter. Just score a couple times in the fourth quarter. My defense, you give them a 1-point lead, they're going to hold it out. It's not working anymore, and the bottom line is we need to be up by more in the fourth quarter, because right now we're flipping a coin when it comes to the fourth quarter. We get to there, we'll take a lead late, and at that point it's just like, okay, they're going to drive down the field, and either they're going to score and win, or they're not going to score, and we're going to win. Against the Rams drove down the field, they got into the red zone. Cooper Kupp had a touchdown pass in his hands, he dropped it. He catches it, they win the game. Yesterday, Redskins didn't drop the ball, they won the game. That was the difference. You're flipping a coin. You're just saying, I hope that we're the last team that has a big drive that leads to a big score. That's what this team is right now. And I need to be given a reason to believe that Pete Carroll sees this and embraces the team that we need to be. We know we can do it. Russell Wilson had a 7-game stretch 2 years ago where he had 24 touchdown passes and 1 pick. And we just ran everything through him. We barely had a running back on the team. Rawls broke his leg. Lynch was hurt. We were rushing people off the street just to make sure we had a running back who was active. And Wilson didn't care. He just found open receivers, Curse, Baldwin, whoever. No Jimmy Graham. Jimmy Graham broke his leg, and Wilson went off for the rest of the season. It didn't matter. We need more urgency in the offense before the fourth quarter. We need a better understanding of the personnel we have. And That is what concerns me for this year. This has been a long video. I needed to say a lot of things because if this stuff does not get fixed, this is a 9 or 10 win team that might make the playoffs, might win a game, and that's kind of it. That's not good enough for the investment that the front office has made. And everything I just said about Pete Carroll, devaluing the passing attack in favor of the running attack, that doesn't even get into the fact that he is standing by guys like Tom Cable, who is clearly not doing his job. By the way, if you need more proof of that, go look up some stuff that's being said on Twitter about J.R. Sweezy. I've read several reports that say J.R. Sweezy instantly became a much better player when he left Seattle. Our offensive line does not have a player problem. It probably has a coaching problem, though. I hate to say it, guys. I wanted to like Tom Cable, but there is overwhelming evidence that he's just not getting the most out of these players. And Pete Carroll's protecting Brian Snyder right now, too. Another guy clearly not getting the job done the last 2 years. Arguably, Darrell Bevell. It depends on how you feel. The numbers look pretty, but you watch these first halves, and it's terrible. We've had one good first half all season. And that was basically a do-or-die situation. If we didn't have a good first half against the Texans, we would have been down 35-0. So, yeah. Offense cannot do this. This defense is too good. Despite the slip-ups the defense had yesterday, they played good enough to win. Offense can't do this to us. And as for the kicker problem, get in the end zone, and that's not going to be as big a deal. Get in the end zone. You've got a top-5 quarterback thrown to a top-5 wide receiver. I know the offensive line was leaky yesterday. We got a quarterback who's built to deal with that kind of stuff. Deal with it. Okay, guys. Pete Carroll's an old man who believes what he believes about football because he's been involved in football for like half a century, probably. And I don't know if he's going to be able to adjust, but this season requires adjustment. We don't have running backs. We have wide receivers. We have the quarterback. Those guys are going to decide whether or not this team lives or dies. Okay, this is one of my longer videos ever, which is not great. I didn't mean to make it run this long, but that's going to define this season. I'll make a video in a couple days probably about the Arizona game, but all you can say is that I'll talk more about that game when it's time to, but it's obviously a must-win. All right, peace out.